Eva here. This is another video response to JudeDirect. This one's going to be about astral travel or astral projection, and it'll probably be more than one video, otherwise it's going to be wicked long. I don't know if you can see my puppy, but he's fallen asleep on my lap. Yeah, so I guess this video will be about how I discovered the concept of astral travel or astral projection. This is something I've been doing since I was like 4 or 5. I stumbled on it accidentally. I'm not even sure I knew that's exactly what I was doing when I was doing it. But I've pretty much been involved in the practice of astral travel ever since. I took a small break for a few years in my teens and came back to it sometime in my 20s, and have been working to get back to where I was before I gave it up for a while. There were two things that I can remember that turned me on to the capability that I could do this for myself. One was I had really bad growing pains. My shins were like in constant agony when I would go to sleep at night. And the other was I discovered that I could lucid dream, which is the ability to control what happens in your dreams. My dad was really open with me, my mom was too, about spiritual things. We grew up in, I guess, what could be considered, I grew up in what could be considered a Christian commune of sorts. So talking about spiritual gifts was always like a readily available conversation. And my dad taught me a few techniques that he picked up along the way that would probably be frowned upon by the Christians that we were involved with at the time. When he was a teenager, he had broken his neck and was supposed to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. He's not, but that was the diagnosis that he received at the time. And to deal with that, he mentally went inside his body and tried to actively find where the nerves were disconnected and work to reconnect them. And he told me that if you focus on the pain, you can find exactly where it's coming from in the body, and you can then move it and you can push it out. So I started practicing that with my growing pains, with my shins. I would find where the pain was, and I would either then push it down and out or up and out. And I would imagine my body being filled up with light, starting from my toes all the way up to my head, pushing the pain out. And so these are very common meditation techniques that I somehow just stumbled upon on my own. So I haven't really read any books to this day. I'm kind of scared to about the topic of meditation or astral projection, because I feel like I have a technique that works for me. I found it out myself, and I'm scared if I read something else, it's going to screw me up. With astral projection, the whole point is that your spirit or your soul or your consciousness leaves your body and goes to some other location. It could be on this world, it could be otherworldly. But when I first started, it was going to places inside my body, starting there first. And one of the practices I used was mapping the boundaries of my brain. And this is going to bork your brain. Speaking of brains, this might freak you out, but how do you really know where your body ends and where everything else begins? Especially if you're a little kid, these are new concepts, you're kind of learning, where do I end, where does everything else begin? So I would imagine myself as a tiny little gnome with a big pointy hat, running around inside my body and going through all the different blood vessels and marking where this was and that was, and here's the boundary for that part, and there's the boundary over there for that. But when I got to my brain, I realized that I could not find the boundaries. I don't know where my brain ends. And I still don't. That's still a technique that I really love to explore, like traveling around inside all the different parts of my brain. Weird. These are hobbies that you come up with when you live out in the middle of nowhere in the woods in a Christian commune, I guess. Totally logical. So yeah, I guess after that, after I found I could travel around inside my body, I decided to start traveling around the earth. I've always had very strong wanderlust. I've always been interested in other parts of the world, adventurous. I move a lot. I love to travel. The world is there to see it. I cannot imagine being in one place for forever and not seeing what there is to see. And I remember being really angsty when I was young, having to wait until I was an adult to be able to go by myself. So, like, what better way to see some things than to astral travel? And for me, the portal to astral travel is through my dreams. It's not something that I can do just like right now. I can't put myself in a state and just, astral travel. I usually have to be falling asleep, that period where you're kind of like drifting into sleep. You're not quite there yet. The period between dreams, inside of dreams, you can hop out and go trip around the world or whatever. So yeah, I guess that pretty much quasi-covers how I found out about it. It is potentially dangerous. I've had trouble not so much with where I've gone. I haven't had trouble with the ability to come back to myself. But I feel that's because I've done so much work inside of my own body that I have a constant anchor. I'm not really looking to get away from my body fully. The trouble I've had with astral projection is when other people who do it decide to like test me, or getting involved with people who have a spiritual vibration that may not jive with mine so well. And when you're involved in things like astral projection or meditation, you tend to become a very sensitive person, and you pick up on these things pretty well. It becomes your scope of focus. It becomes part of your spiritual map. It defines where you are in things. Other people's energy can tell you. It's kind of like a compass, I guess. That's how I view it. So yeah, if the map you're on is muddy, you can run into trouble there. I've heard of people becoming possessed or bringing things back from the astral plane that did not belong. I've heard of people losing themselves and going insane. Losing touch with reality, but I don't really see what's so wrong with that one, to be honest. Yeah. So I've heard a lot of different things like that. I guess I can go more into like the circumstances I've had to deal with myself. But a lot of times what I think is happening is that you're getting in touch with a part of your ego or your subconscious that has not had a light shown on it in quite a while. And therefore it can be spooky, it can be scary, it can be threatening, it can be dangerous, it can be damaging if you don't know how to understand what it is, accept it with grace and love, find out what it wants. That's always a good thing. Who are you? What do you want? I don't know you, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess, for me, I would say that I get most of my spiritual foundation from the concept of astral travel and lucid dreams. Those are my two gifts. I think everything else comes from that: divination, the ability to see what other people are about. And I don't know why I got turned on to that. The environment was open to spiritual conversation when I was growing up, but these are things that were definitely characterized as witchcraft. I couldn't talk to anybody about it really. I told my parents about it, and God, I don't know if they were totally freaked out or not. If they were, they handled it really well. I don't remember them being like, oh, you can't do that, or, yeah. So anyways, now I feel like I'm rambling, so I'll probably cut this one short and continue on another video. Holler mahalo!